turn around.
Okay. This is Mr. Harrison Anderson. Please give him a round of applause. We're just waiting on Randy. He should be up any second. But why don't we start while we're waiting? First, any comments, thoughts on the show?
I thought it was a very powerful show. I did like it, and I thought the actors were awesome.
I will pass that on. They were. Oh, and Randy has made it. Can we get a little more light up here on the pier? Randy Floyd, I'd like to thank him for coming on stage. First, I guess the question everybody asks, which is Dupree asks, why me? And how does your faith help you deal with this issue?
I, for one, I've never been angry about this. I never felt why me. No better than anyone else. It's just a hand you're dealt. I don't feel that. I've never been angry about this.
Wow.
It's a very hard disease on the family, and that was reflected in the play. It was brought up. It's just much harder on my wife and my mother. My mother's 83, and I was diagnosed basically a year ago. It was March 2nd, and my initial symptoms started in August of 2015. Went to the doctor for something unrelated in December and told him my fingers were showing some weakness, and that started the going to different doctors, a spine doctor and so forth. And then they told me March 2nd, but I had already figured it out, because you put two and two together and say, well, they're asking me this and they're doing this. I had decided that they were going to tell me I had ALS.
So you knew about the disease? You were aware?
I remember Ice Bucket Challenge in 2014.
Okay.
That was to raise money for ALS. I remember Ice Bucket Challenge, but I honestly don't think I knew what it was for. But thank God that there was the Ice Bucket Challenge, because it has the proceeds have been used for so much research that they tell us that the advances in research in the last 3 years are more than they had in 40 or 50.
Yeah. Wow.
It's just that much difference, and so you have hope. But again, this disease is progressive, and they tell me I have slow progression because I'm about a year and a half into it, and I'm still able to work, and my hands are weak, and my left leg is getting weaker. So I mean, it's progressing again, but it's very hard on the family, much harder than I think it is on us. But I do have faith. I'm not afraid of what this is going to do to me. Obviously, I don't want to be paralyzed, but I mean, I know that's a possibility. But we're all just passing through. We're not. This is not our home. We're passing through, and so if I don't stay here long as I wanted to, that's okay. I'm all right with. I know my soul is saved, and so I'm not afraid.
And Randy, if you could share when you were diagnosed and kind of how you deal with it, how your faith helps you deal with it.
I was diagnosed in 2012, and like Harrison, I knew it before also. I started having my first symptoms about 2010. I'd seen a lot of it in my family because mine is actually familial ALS, where Harrison has the sporadic. Mine is familial, and I've lost 15 members of my family already with it.
Wow.
And there's 5 in my family living with it now. So we all see it way ahead of, when the doctors let us know. We see what's coming, and we really know what it is. So I 2012, I'm 5 years into it, but actually about 7 years roughly.
Okay.
But, having faith in God is one big thing about this. You can't do it without. There's times that you do get down and you get depressed, but you know you just got to keep looking to God. I mean, He's going to get you through. Some of my family has actually went into exile. It's like the Reverend Dupree.
Oh, really?
I've had some that has just distanced themselves from everybody. They didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to face the facts. They didn't want to realize what was happening. Most recently, my first cousin passed away in December. When she first found out that she had it, she didn't want to have anything to do with anybody. She didn't want visitors. She stayed home and never went out. And it's just, you know, like he said, it's hard on the family, and that's hard on the family because the family wants you to be out. And I get a whole lot of inspiration coming out doing stuff like this. And you know, excuse me, there is times, like I say, there's times you get down and you get depressed, but every chance that I get to come out and do something like this, it's a big shot in arm for me. It's a big inspiration.
And it's the bravery is amazing. The courage to come out and share your story with us. So thank you again. I'm just blown away by that. Questions from the audience? Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
So what are some of the early symptoms? Each of you has indicated you sort of saw it beforehand or saw it coming. I know you mentioned it's familiar, so you've noticed some of that well beforehand, but you talked about the icebreaker challenge you knew. So what are some of the signs that that's approaching, or you know something's changed?
Well, for me, August of 2015, I noticed weakness in my thumb and first finger, like if I was trying to hold a screw or a nail or something, and I didn't think too much about it. I went to the doctor in December for something unrelated, and he asked me, said, everything else all right? I said, well, I got some weakness here. And he sent me to a spine doctor through Wake Forest because I had some back issues in the past, and my biggest fear is like, oh gosh, they're going to want to, I got a pinched nerve or something, they're going to want to operate on me or something, and my biggest fear is I'll be out of work because of this. And that in turn, I think he knew immediately or suspected it, and then he sent me over to the Wake main campus to see a neuromuscular doctor. And so they start doing these tests, they call them EMG tests, where they put needles in you here and here, and they measure with the current how they travel the distance. I don't know what they're exactly looking for, but all of my tests turned out to be abnormal, but they didn't tell me that at the time. I just remember going home one day, and my wife's mother, my mother-in-law, said, what kind of doctor did he go see? And I said, he's a neuromuscular doctor. And she said, well, I hope he doesn't have MS. And that was the first time that it ever entered my mind that I might have something serious. So I went on the internet. That's where you get it. Good or bad, it's out there. So I started looking and then checked ALS. I said, well, they're asking me this question. They're doing these tests. They're measuring my muscles and asked me my age, which I'm in the age group that's, I guess, you get a higher percentage. I'm 61 at the time. I'm 63 now. That's when I had started looking, and I told my wife, I said, they're looking to see if I have ALS. And I had to come to the conclusion 2 weeks before they told me that I was pretty confident that's what they were going to tell me. Hoping not, but, and that's when they told me. And when they tell you you have ALS, they don't sugarcoat it. I mean, they told me, and you basically, statistically, and some more, but in the range you have 2 to 5 years to live. So that was on March the 2nd, 2 days before my 62nd birthday that I found that out. And so we went home. My wife was in tears. We're kind of in shock. And I'll be honest with you, the 4 months after that were kind of a blur. It took me 4 months to wrap my head around it, that they have a terminal disease. You can't prepare yourself for that when you think that's what they're going to tell you. But it's, I mean, I could honestly tell you, I mean, it's like Randy said, you cannot have this and not be depressed. You will have depression. I have not stayed there. The first 4 months was the toughest. But after that, came out of that, I'm still working. And actually, I can tell you I'm not depressed. I have days, but by far I do not have depression all day long and just live with it. This is, when your doctor looks you in the eyes and says, enjoy every day, they're serious. You should enjoy every day.
Where do you think you find your strength to do that, to not have that?
I've got an awesome wife, my family. The second, I found out March 2nd, I had ALS. I went to an ALS. The walk is coming up in May. But somebody, I look back, God put people in my life for this when it was coming. A fellow realtor had joined me prior to me finding this out. And when I found out I had ALS, I let her know. And she said, I know somebody who has that. And they're having a meeting March the 3rd. I found out March 2nd. March the 3rd at Bibb's restaurant to prepare for the walk, the ALS walk. And so we went. And
The next day?
24 hours later, I was in a meeting for ALS walk. And that's where, you know, you walk in and of course you don't know anybody. And then when I was just diagnosed. You get a lot of hugs when you have ALS, I'll tell you that. But, and I met Randy that night, and I'd actually seen him on TV because ALS, Floyd's Fighters, he was interviewed on TV 2 or 3 times. So I met him that night, and him being in my life, and he's helped me tremendously because he's seen it all. But the people that are in my life that I can see in the months leading up to this diagnosis are not there by accident.
What about you, Randy? What were your initial, you said you were 2010?
Yes, sir.
I mean, you were familiar with the disease
Yeah.
because of the family history.
I had first started having the symptoms with it works differently in everybody. And everyone in my family has, it's affected in some shape, you know, differently. But mine started in my ankles, my legs. My ankles would give away when I was walking. I would be in the yard, weed eating, doing stuff in the yard, and my ankles would start giving away. And then climbing steps. Started having a lot of problems climbing the steps. So I knew then, you know, that it was going on. But, you know, I kept making excuses. I was at work, people would see me limping, and, you know, I was having problems. And, you know, I would make excuses. Oh, I pulled a muscle, or I got a pinched nerve, or something. And, you know, I just, there for a while, I didn't want to admit it, but, you know, finally when I decided I would go to the doctor, I mean, I went in and told my neurologist. He asked me what my problem was, what I was there for, and I told him, I said, I have ALS.
Oh, wow. You
I knew it.
said that to him.
And he had actually been the doctor for several of my family members. And when I told him who they all were, he was like, okay. So he knew it, and of course we went through the motions with all the tests he was talking about. And but I wasn't shocked. You know, the hardest part for me was, and my wife was with me, but the hardest part was telling my daughter and my brother and sisters. You know, that was the hardest part. I done went through all this and had my little spell. And like I said, it affects everybody differently, and it doesn't target a specific age group. It doesn't target male or female, race, or anything. Anybody can come up and have it. There's been kids as young as 6 years old.
Wow, I didn't realize.
And it's something that just popped up.
And for you, what's your, on those dark days, what do you find comfort in, or what gets you through those days or those moments?
I try to stay busy. I try to stay active, doing what I can to keep my mind off of it. A lot of prayer. My faith in God is the only thing that gets me through it, along with the support of my family.
So it seems like both of you have very supportive families.
The church, friends, and my wife has put together, about 3. In the last year, we've had 2 cookouts, and we had a birthday party just last night. People that I've known, and it's amazing how once this happens, your support group, you see who cares, and you have it's very humbling. It is, and it's just and Faith, our church, and we have a lot of support. What people don't know, this drug, this disease was first diagnosed 150 years ago. There's one drug that he and I have access to. It doesn't, and they'll tell you it doesn't do bugs. Research is the key to finding some kind of treatment for this, because right now it's just not.
You had a question?
Yes. Did either of you distance yourselves from other people when you figured out that you first had ALS?
The first 3 or 4 months, I was, you said distance myself from people? Yeah. Not intentionally. I was depressed. So being depressed just kind of, it changed. It bothers you mentally, so there's things you don't want to do. But yeah, once I got past that, and even during that time, I didn't hide from people. I never hid from people the fact that I had it. But one of the, I guess, the best things I did after I was diagnosed is I debated for a while if I would put that on Facebook, because it's such a big deal. And that turned out, after I did it, to be probably the best thing I did, because people don't know how to pray for you till they know what you need. And so that has people I went to high school with and haven't seen in many years have sent me wishes and tell me they're praying for me, and churches that I don't know throughout all over have me on their prayer list, in all of us. So that turned out to be a very good decision.
And you actually meet, like he said, with Facebook, you meet a lot of people that is going through the same battle that you are. I went last year to Washington, D.C. with our ALS Association for advocacy, where we went to Capitol Hill and met with our senators, to request and to get more funding, and staying involved with that and going to places like that, and then meeting other patients that has ALS. And I went to a clinical thing in Florida this past year, and I've met people that we all network together, and we all become friends on Facebook, and we all share what's going on in our life.
That support of someone else who
Yes.
knows what you're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we're all fighting the same battle. Some of us are fighting it differently than others. I mean, it works differently each person.
And that's one of the things Randy told me, that first night I met him, we're family. We're all in this together. And so it's true.
Yes, ma'am.
Question, ALS and MS have very similar sort of characteristics or symptoms. Is there anything in particular that they tested for to rule out the MS? And definitely say it was the ALS?
There's no definitive test for ALS. I guess they just ruled out things. But MS never came up in the conversation with the doctors. So I don't know. But I don't know. I guess is there a definitive test for MS? I don't know.
I'm not sure on that, but now like in our situation, in my family situation, anybody that's in my family can go be tested now and have a genetic test done. We have a specific gene that's called the SOD1 gene, and that gene is what causes this in our family. And I have a daughter that's 30 years old that could be tested right now with a simple blood test to tell if she has the gene, but she doesn't want to know. And a lot of people in that situation don't want to know until, especially in our family, don't want to know until it's real, prominent that you know for sure you got it. But she could be tested to see if she has the gene, but not necessarily, if she has a gene, doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to have the disease. She could be a carrier and not ever have the disease. But if you get that definite diagnosis that you do have the gene, it's going to worry you. It's going to stay in the back of your mind, for several years until something does come up.
Yes.
So you mentioned we've known about this for 150 years. So has there not been adequate research, or has there been a lot of research and they just haven't been able to find something that can slow the progression of it down or get to a cure?
I think it's a rare disease. So maybe in 100,000 people, maybe one person. So I would assume that it's not, for the pharmaceutical companies, this is not going to be a big moneymaker. One of the most exciting things that Randy and I found out this year was that there is a lot of research going on now. There is. And I've been on 2 clinical trials in the past year, and I have another one coming up, hopefully by June. And one of the things about clinical trials, they want you to be 2 years, no more than 2 years from onset of the symptoms. So my symptoms, I've got till August typically to get in a trial. I just don't think it's a big money maker for them. But Wake Forest has some very encouraging. They have ALS clinical research, and Wake has an ALS clinic. A lot of people come from all over to be seen here. But they have found a protein that has shown great promise in treating mice that have the ALS gene disease that they set up. So that is really encouraging to us, but it takes time and money. And that's one of the things we're trying to do is help them Wake Forest raise money in their ALS research clinic. But even with the money, it takes time. I don't know if it'll be able to help us, but we're working to whatever we can do to advance the research to get it through the stages and get FDA in front of the FDA, and hopefully we can do something with it.
This clinic over here sees about, he said it was several years, there's about 100 patients, ALS patients that's seen at the Wake Clinic. And there's approximately 600 patients in North Carolina that's being served by the clinics, 5 ALS clinics or 6 now, I think. And the ALS Association sponsors those clinics. And probably nationwide, there's 30,000 people. There's a diagnosis every 90 seconds, they say. So, and it's, like you he said the research it's there, but it's slow. I mean, it's, you know, and we might not ever see anything that's going to help us, but if I can do that much, that'll help somebody in my family or other families, you know, hey, I'm all for it.
So what is, you made the point about appreciating every day with having this diagnosis. So do either or both of you have something on the bucket list that you want to get accomplished, or that you want to appreciate each day more?
My wife does. You know, it's just try to enjoy every day. I mean, I think I'm a simple guy. I don't have to go to France or Paris. That doesn't excite me. But I think for me, now that we're into this, I want to, just like Randy said, to do something to advance the cause, and just like something like this, you know more about ALS now than you did when you came in here. And so it can strike anyone. But we need to help get the word out that there's research out there, and they need money. And so anything we can do, I've reached out to try to let the ALS clinic here at Wake and the research, I've contacted 60 Minutes, all these big news shows, and they put out press releases, and nobody's ever done a story. And I think that needs to be out there. So, like I said, I've mailed all of them. So far, nothing, but we'll keep at it because people need to know.
Well, I want to thank both of you for coming, sharing your story, sharing your time. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys for coming out. Thanks for staying.